All right, so today we're working on the difference of squares and the sum and difference of cubes. All right, the first thing on our list here is actually a warm up, factoring using the AC method. I'm not going to bother doing that. There's a separate video on AC method. So we're going to get right into difference of squares. All right, so when to try using difference of squares. All right, so you have some conditions. Number one is you have a binomial. All right, remember that a binomial means it has two terms. Number two, you have subtraction. As the name implies, the difference of squares requires you to be finding the difference. All right, so it has to be subtraction. And number three, your terms have square roots. All right, our formula. So how do we actually do this thing? If we meet our criteria, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? All right, so our formula, we go from a squared minus b squared. All right, notice this meets my conditions, right? It's a binomial. It has two terms, 1, 2. Okay. Second thing, it has subtraction. Yep. Third thing, each of our terms has a square root. Okay. So it has to meet all three terms in order for the difference of squares to work. All right. So our formula, we go from a squared minus b squared. The factored form is a plus b, a minus b. All right. It really is super simple. All you're going to do is you're going to find the square roots and you're going to plug it in. All right. So how to? Remember, always factor any GCFs. Remembering that GCF stands for greatest common factor. All right. This is our first step always when we're factoring. It's our last step when we're factoring as well. All right. Check for GCFs, factor out any. All right. So let's look at our example 25x squared minus 9. There's no greatest common factor between those two. So I don't have to factor anything out. Step 2, look at each term in your binomial. Find the square root. All right. Find the square root, and I'm going to say with this, identify A and B. All right. Step 3, insert into the formula. All right, so let's actually do this. We already checked for GCFs, there aren't any. So next, we're going to look at each term in my binomial. We're going to find the square root and identify what A and B is. Remember, our first term here is going to be A squared, and our second term is going to be B squared. So I want the square root of my first term. So that's going to tell me what A is. So the square root of 25x squared is 5x. Then I'm going to take the square root of my second term. That's going to tell me what B is. The square root of 9 is 3. All right, for the purposes of this negative sign here is informational only. That's only telling me that, hey, this form is going to work. I don't need to try to find what the square root of -9 is. All right, that's an imaginary number. We're not going there today. All right, so right now we're just looking at what the square root of 9 is. All right, now that we found the square roots, we've identified A and B, we're going to plug it into our formula. Right? Remember that our formula says we go from a squared minus b squared to a plus b, a minus b. So write down our a's, 5x, 5x, write down my b's, 3, 3, plus, and minus, and we're done. All right, let's do a couple more examples, just real quick. All right, binomial, no GCFs, negative sign between. So a and b, a equals x, b equals 9. Plug it into our formula, x, 9, 9, plus, minus, done. All right, next one. It's a binomial. It has subtraction. There are no GCFs, so I go straight to finding my square roots. A is C, B is 11. All right, plug in my A's, plug in my B's, plus, minus, done. All right, let's do this one last one here. A and B. All right, it's a binomial. It has subtraction. There aren't any GCFs. That's my first step. Next step, find my square roots. So A is 2x, B is 3. Plug it into my formula. Plug in my A's first. Plug in my B's. plus minus. Done. All right, we have a few more examples here, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to do these. They follow the same exact procedure. What I really want to get you here is the sum and difference of cubes. All right, this is just about as easy. It has to be slightly more complicated because it is cubes, and you're going to find this slightly more difficult simply because our brains don't naturally like to think in cubes. Squares are easy. We can think about that. We know 4, we know 9, we know 25. Cubes, they're a little more difficult. All right, so when to try? Again, we have some conditions. So when to try? 1, we have a binomial. 2 of these conditions are going to look really familiar. Binomial. Number 2. All right, we have subtraction or addition. This works with both. And number 3, your terms have cubed roots. All right, if you're doing this on a calculator, you're going to look for the button that looks like this. It's the square root symbol with the little 3 over the leg. You may also have one that has an X here instead of a 3. Depends on your calculator. All right, I definitely recommend having a calculator available for doing cubed roots because, like I said, our brains don't naturally think in them a lot. All right, so our formulas. So we said that this works with subtraction and addition. So we have a cubed minus b cubed. We also have a cubed plus b cubed. All right, we're going to set up our parentheses first. And for this, I like to set up my signs before I go ahead and put in my symbols, and because this is how we remember it. For the first sign here in our first set of parentheses, we do the same as whatever our sign in our binomial is. So this is a negative, so same. The next one is opposite, and the last one is always plus. All right, we do the same thing over here. I've got a positive here. We go same, opposite, always plus. All right, now we're going to put in our letters. We go A, B. So far this looks familiar, right? This is where we changed. A squared, AB, B squared. All right, next, AB, A squared, AB, B squared. All right, what I want you all to notice is look at my letters. You notice we say AB, A squared, AB, B squared. On the plus side, I say A, B, A squared, AB, B squared. The letters are the same. All right, the only thing that changes is the signs. So the symbols, remember, and you've heard me say it at least twice here, when we're writing these down, same, opposite, always plus. Same, opposite, always plus. If you can remember that, then you only have to memorize one formula. All right, just memorize the order that the letters go in and you're good. All right, so how to do this? Let's get some actual practice. Remember always, what's our always step 1, right? We factor the GCFs. This is always our first step. Second, look at each term in your binomial. Find the cubed root. Identify A and B. All right, so looking at our example, factor out any GCFs. There are no GCFs between x cubed and 8. So next we need to find A and B, which means we need to find the cubed roots. So A is going to be the cubed root of the first term, B will be the cubed root of the second term. So the cubed root of x cubed is x. The cubed root of 8 is 2. Now that we've identified A and B, we can move on to step 3, which is insert into our formula. All right, I start out always by setting up my parentheses, one smaller set, one bigger set, put in my signs. Notice up here, this is a plus sign. All right, so same, opposite, always plus, and then we can plug in our numbers. So first one is A, which we said is x. Next one is B, which we said is 2. Next comes A squared. So if x is A, I want to square it. So x times x, x squared. Next, I want AB, so A times B, so x times 2, so 2x. Lastly, I want B squared, so if 2 is B, then 2 squared is 4. And that's it. All right, slightly more complicated than the difference of squares, but still not too bad. All right, let's work a few examples. We're going to do 1, 2, and no, 1, 2, 3, and 5 here. All right, so 1. Binomial, subtraction, they've got cubed roots. A and B, A is X, B is 3. Plug into our format, put in our signs, same, different, always plus. Put in A, put in B, put in A squared, put in AB, put in B squared. Done. All right, next. It's a binomial. It has a plus sign in between it. That's okay. They both have cubed roots. We're good. A, B. So A equals Y, B equals 5. So put in our symbols here. So same, different, always plus. So A, B, A squared, AB, B squared. All right. Example number 3. Hey, we're a binomial. Hey, we have a plus sign. Third condition. Does 2x cubed have a cubed root? No. What about 16y cubed? No. How do I, remember we have to do our first step. Don't forget to look for GCFs. All right. Notice we actually have a GCF here. Okay. The greatest common factor of 2x cubed and 16y cubed is 2. So factor out that 2 first and then see if it works better. X cubed plus 8y cubed. Do they have a cubed root now? Yeah. All right, so let's find our A and our B. All right, so the cubed root of x cubed is x. Cubed root of 8y cubed is 2y. Set up our parentheses. Okay, this is plus, same, opposite, always plus. Don't forget to bring down your 2. Okay, it's still a factor. It needs to be included in this. It doesn't just disappear because we factored it out, all right? It's still a part of this. So now that we brought down our 2, we've got our parentheses set up. Let's go ahead and plug it in. So A, B, A squared, AB, so 2xy. Notice I took the time to put them in alphabetical order, and B squared is 4y squared. All right, so that is it for this one. As always, email me if you have any questions, and good luck with your homework.